Good evening, YouTube. DutyRon back in again with another video. And tonight we're going to talk about Chris Watts and his family makeup, the family side of Chris Watts. And we're only going to be speaking about Chris Watts' mother, father, sister. My name is DutyRon, retired New York City Police Detective, 20 plus years in law enforcement. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or when I upload a video. I want to say a special thank you to all my Patreon supporters, my channel members, all the people who support me through positive comments, subscribing, and interacting on the live stream. It's always great to have a positive community. Hello to all of the channel members coming on in, Dawn Marie, Black Rose, my moderators. I greatly appreciate it. Joey Brooklyn. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And I have a super special guest. She is a big fan of the DutyRon family. She's been here before. I'm going to bring her on in a few minutes, but we are going to talk about the Chris Watts dynamic, how his parents, how his sister can just have conversation with him. And it just seems like they've completely forgotten about the annihilation, that the heinous, horrific, demonic crime that he committed against his wife, his two children, and his unborn child, his unborn son. It is just a sickening situation. August 17th of 2018, baby Bella, Cece, and unborn Nico, along with Shanann, were savagely murdered by their own flesh and blood, their father, the husband, the protector, the very person who is supposed to be protecting them and keeping them safe. This heinous criminal deserved the death penalty, in my eyes, deserved to be on death row. And because of the goodness of the Rusek family, because of the goodness of Shanann's family, they spared this sick demonic monster the death penalty. I got to say this, folks, they're better people than me, because although I am a Catholic, I'm a Christian, I would 100% want to see him fry on death row for the heinous crimes that he committed. So I tip my cap to the Rusek family. I send them love and respect for the decision that they made to have him have consecutive life sentences in prison. They're better people than I. They're better people than many of us here. And I have to say, I send prayers, positive vibes, and thoughts. This video is not about the crime that happened. This is not about his girlfriend. This is not about his infidelity. This is about the way his mother, Chris Watts' mother, his father, and the way that they and his sister, the way that they are treating him now when we see them interacting. Chris Watts' parents, Cindy, 64, Ronnie, 63. They may be a tad bit older now. They're from North Carolina. And visit Chris at Dodge Correctional. And he also, as we spoke about in previous live streams, has tons of lady friends writing him in prison. It's just a disgusting, despicable, every adjective that I can add to the list. People writing into a sick, demonic, demented monster who wiped out his entire family. People writing and interacting with him is just beyond reproach. They are just as sick and demented and evil as Chris Watts, in my eyes. I'm going to bring on now a great friend of all of ours. Mav B is going to be coming on in. She is in California. She had a busy holiday week. She's just coming back from an adventure with her family. I'm going to introduce you here to my great friend. We all know her, Mav B. Great to see you, hun. I appreciate you coming on in. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here again with all of the DutyRon family. I've really enjoyed the last couple times that I've been on with you, so I'm glad to be here today talking about this stuff. It's interesting to me for sure. I never thought I'd be living in it or through it, but here we are, and I'm hoping to bring a little bit of our perspective from our experience in this
Yes.
situation.
And our perspective runs deep. Mav, her cousin, Clara, was murdered 7 months earlier before Chris Watts annihilated his family. So on December 19th, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these dates, but I think I'm pretty on the money with it. December 19th of 2017, his Jacob Forman, that's Clara Forman's husband, up in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, murdered his 2 baby girls and his wife in a heinous, heinous fashion. Now, Mav has been on to speak about this. She's been brave enough to talk a few times about this, but she stumbled across one of my broadcasts when I was highlighting her cousin's murder and the girls. And she wrote me an email and corresponded with me and actually commended me on the respect that I showed to her family. And it's hard for me to talk about this without getting a little broken up, but the amount of love and respect that was shown both ways between Mav and myself is a testament to humanity and what good, decent people are supposed to be. Unlike Chris Watts and all of the sick, savage people who interact with him and pat him on the back, Mav said to me, Ron, one of the most important things you said is saying that Jacob Forman is a monster and is evil. And I want you to expand on that, Mav, about the meaning behind labeling somebody that has done something like this and why it was so important to you to hear that from me. Talk about the family dynamic on your side, and then we'll tie it in to the Chris Watts family. Thank you, Half Rudder, for the super chat.
And thank you for all the comments that are coming in. I really appreciate the condolences that we still have. It's really important for me that we keep Clara and the girls and their memory alive, and that we also remember what happened to them. Because I want to say that was one of the most important things that when I had watched that first broadcast, to hear somebody say this man is a monster and what he did is unbelievable and unforgivable, and this is not a person that deserves to exist. And believe it or not, even though it had been some time, I can't remember how long it had been between when we lost our family to when you had the broadcast, but that was the first time outside of my immediate family, like my mom and my dad and my husband, that I heard anybody say those words. And that's because, our family has been in a tight-knit Christian religion, and so was Jacob. And to many of the family, including his family, his pastors related, from what I understand, his uncle and his parents, and my aunt and uncle, Clara's immediate family, they all consider him still to be a brother in the church. And that was just unbelievable for me. And I was just needing somebody to say, no, he's a bad guy. I needed somebody to say he was a bad guy because I was feeling it. And I didn't see anything good left. As the moment he made the decision to wipe out his family and keep his own life, he no longer was family to me. He no longer was a person or human. He was as evil as I felt you were saying. And that's one of the things that really was shocking, I think, for me. Even though I can rationalize and I understand where the ideas are coming from, it was just shocking. I really expected a little bit more from the people that were immediately involved, and really being like, this guy's a bad guy, let's go after him, throw the book at him. They wanted all of that stuff.
Right.
They didn't want any of that stuff. I wanted all that stuff, and I needed you to say that.
Yeah, and what was amazing about our conversation, and again, this all ties into Chris Watts. So everybody that's here to hear about Chris Watts, this is going to tie in. We're going to it's going to probably take another 3 to 5 minutes to tie this in. What Mav is saying is that, you know, the people both on her side of the family. Now, in the chat, people are saying, "Is that your sister?" No, it is her cousin. This is your first cousin, right? So, Clara was, she grew up with Mav and the rest of the girls, right? There were other girls, right? You have sisters, or the other dynamic part of the family. It wasn't just Mav and Clara, but they grew up together. They hung out as teenagers. They drank, beers together at campfires. They did what young girls do together. I mean, these are conversations that I had with Mav about her cousin. But at the end of the day, 7 months before Chris Watts wiped his family out, Jacob Forman did the same thing in a different country, in Canada, over in Kelowna. I think I'm saying that correctly. Kelowna, British Columbia. So I questioned when I heard about Mav's cousin. I questioned if Chris Watts ever saw it and got the idea, like, hey, this guy wiped his family out. Maybe I could do it too. But we know now that there was a different dynamic that influenced or pushed Chris Watts to wipe his family out. It was a significant other. He was cheating on his wife with another woman. Now, we've never confirmed that to be true with Jacob up with your cousin, but the significant similarities are that you have a family in Kelowna, up in Canada, his family or parts of his church and his community, who are wanting him to eventually see the light of day and get out of jail. I mean, I already told Mom that I will go to Canada with her. I'll pay for the flight, and we'll go up there and go to the parole hearings and make sure that that doesn't happen. I got the time, I have the resources, and I will do that. Chris Watts has no chance of parole, life without parole, because the Rusek family told the Weld County District Attorney to not prosecute under the death penalty. And again, like I said in the opening here, how brave and how forgiving is Shanann's family. I'm telling you right now, I mean, listen, I'm a father of 2 grown men. If my kids, if my boys did something like that, of course I would still love them. But I'd have a hard time saying it's okay. I still love you. I know I would do it, but I wouldn't be on the grand stage. I wouldn't be advertising. I wouldn't be writing books. There would be no grandstanding whatsoever. Now, everybody's their own person. We're all individuals. So no 2 people react the same. And I would hope that we would never be in that predicament. But there's talk that there is 23 to 30, anywhere from 23 to 30 family annihilations. They call them famicides or family sides or whatever. It's a homicide where they wipe out the family. There's 23 to 30 per year, and that's from 2015 figures. That's a lot of incidents that we never hear about. Now, when I did the live stream about Clara, nobody even knew about it. Nobody even heard about it. But it didn't matter to me, because when I read about it and I did my research, it broke my heart. And I felt it was necessary to speak out. And I had no knowledge of who the family was, what kind of people they were, what the dynamic was, but it didn't matter. You have 2 beautiful young children murdered. Same thing in the Chris Watts case. And a beautiful wife, a loving, caring, beautiful wife. Shanann was that. She was a live streamer. She was a go-getter. She was a ball of fire. She was the life of the party. She was the person who did all the talking. Chris was the quiet one. But at the end of the day, he was the one who stepped up and made the decision to annihilate his family. And I'm going to play quickly here for you his sentence. It's only 2 minutes, so bear with me on this, and it may echo just a tad bit. I'm going to try to pause my audio and Mob's. I want to play this little piece. It's 2 minutes and 33 seconds. So let's listen. This is from his sentencing, and we'll listen to it quickly.
Raw drama in court as the cold-hearted killer who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters is sentenced. The father of slain Shanann Watts gave an emotional statement venting his anger and grief.
You heartless monster. You have no heart or feelings or love. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul.
Shanann's mother reminded Watts of a heartbreaking video his daughter Bella recorded.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong.
We loved you like a son. We trusted you. Your faithful wife trusted you. Your children adored you.
Here's Jim Murray.
The DA revealed gruesome new details about the murders. As Watts strangled his wife, it would have taken up to 4 minutes to end her life. Then he smothered his 2 daughters. 4-year-old Bella fought back as her dad was killing her. Even more shocking, just hours after burying his wife and dumping his daughters' bodies in oil tanks, he was back with his co-workers, acting as if nothing had happened.
Even his own mother expressed horror at Watts' crimes. A tear rolled down his cheek as she spoke.
This is something we will never get over.
This is his mother.
We mourn the loss of our family. I am still struggling to understand how and why this tragedy occurred.
He kept his head bowed as his mother turned to look at him.
We love you, and we forgive you, son.
He did not look back at her. 33-year-old Watts was offered an opportunity to speak.
Would you like to make a statement?
No, sir.
But his attorney apologized on his behalf.
Although he understands that words are hollow at this point, he is sincerely sorry for all of this.
And when it was time to hear his fate, Watts' legs shook uncontrollably beneath the defense table.
The court is going to sentence you, sir, to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole.
District Attorney Michael Rourke said there will always be unanswered
Listen
questions
carefully here.
about the horrifying crime.
I don't think he will give an honest assessment of why he did what he did, how he did what he did, and I don't think that there is ever going to be a satisfactory answer for anyone.
Okay, so again, here he said he did not feel that he was going to get an honest. I don't think we still have the complete honest confession from Chris Watts. He's so sick and sadistic and twisted that he's creating his own stories, just as he did in the beginning when he said, she went out, she just left, she left me, I want her back, I want them back. So this is a man who, okay, is sentenced, justice is served, right? Justice is served because he's behind bars and he'll never see the light of day. As we should hope Jacob Forman will never see the light of day. Unfortunately, his sentence up in the Canadian authorities and the Canadian controlled judicial system, it sucks up there, and that's the best way I could put it. I could say something like, but I won't say that. It's a really stark difference in the sentences, Mav, between Chris Watts, who killed his wife, his 2 daughters. The only extra human life is his unborn son, Nico. Talk about how you feel and what your family feels with the sentencing of Jacob Forman.
It's interesting, and I watched the sentencing, and part of me feels a little bit, I don't know if jealous is the word, but I wish that it was a little bit stronger, to put it lightly. And we're actually divided. If it were, I wished that he was here in the United States, in a state that allowed the death penalty. And I haven't always been someone who supported that, but when I was in it and waiting for this, I wanted him to be.
What was his sentence total? Do you have that? I mean, I know it. I just want to hear you say it.
He's got 25 for the girls, 25 to life, I believe. And so it's, I think, 35 total, and 10 for Clara. If
Right.
he had allowed the girls to live, he would be eligible for parole in just 10 years. And that to me is unacceptable. And with the girls, he did get a first-degree murder charge. And what was difficult for us is that the family on my side was not unanimous in wanting that first degree sentence. And there were a lot of people who, well, obviously his family, and also members of Clara's immediate family, that were okay with him getting a second degree murder charge for the girls and not having a consecutive sentence.
Terrible. You know, again, like I said, the main thing here is that, you know, justice to be served. And how can justice be served if this man has a chance? 10 years for killing his wife. To me, that's a travesty of justice. And I'm not saying this to sugarcoat it or, you know, make it, you know, hurt anymore, but it's the truth. You and I have spoken about this. You know, how fair is that when you take another human's life? If he, like you said, if he spared his children, and his words were, well, I don't want you to be here without mommy. You know, I want you all to be in heaven. That was his rationale for killing his daughters. But had he not, 10 years? I mean, that's sickening. That's why I think it's important that, you know, when the time comes, I know I won't be working full time anymore. When that time comes, I am going to, I mean, I'm going to have to really visit that possibility of going before the parole board with you, or, you know, just going up there to fight on behalf of your cousin. Now, Chris Watts is sentenced to consecutive life terms, but he would have been eligible for the death penalty. And because of Shanann's parents making a plea that it was against their wishes to see him die, you know, I don't know if they've had a change of heart. It's not my place to even think or go there. But at the time, they had the power, they had the ability to have that district attorney go, in Colorado, the death penalty is in effect. And his crime fell within that auspice where they could have enacted the death penalty. So I think seriously here is that we have a situation where you have a family who is forgiving on their daughters, on Shanann's side, and then you have Chris Watts' mother and father who despised Shanann, who did not get along with her, didn't even go to their wedding. Cindy and Ronnie Watts did not go to their son's wedding because they did not get along with his wife. That tells you something right there. It really gives you a clear indicator of what type of people they are. And I don't know much about them. I'm just going based on that face value. You couldn't suck up your differences and go to the most important part of somebody's life. You know, when someone gets married, it's an important thing. So they took it upon themselves to not do that and go to the wedding. But what I found incredibly creepy and incredibly disturbing is when Chris Watts' sister went to jail, to the prison, and had that phone conversation with Chris Watts. When I first saw it, I didn't even know it was his sister. I thought it was his girlfriend or one of these creepy people who writing him letters and visiting him. And then when I found out it was his sister, that made it a double creepy for me, and double nasty. She was talking to him like they were dating. I don't know. Did anybody else get that vibe? I know there's probably hundreds of people on the replay, thousands of people who are going to see this. The Chris Watts sister conversation with him, just for me, took it to a whole nother level. It was disturbing, and it said a lot about that family dynamic and the family makeup. I mean, I know my sister loves me, and my sister would stick up for me. But if I annihilated my family and killed both my children and my wife, I don't think my sister would be laughing and joking and talking about a Jeep and talking about your hair looks good and your grays. Let me see your grays. And I almost want to play it here, but I'm not going to. Everybody here has seen it. Mav, you're the only one that hasn't seen it, but I'll play it for you when we debroadcast, when we're done here. But that, as a detective, listen, I've sat in on murder interrogations and investigations, a lot of them, because I worked in the warrant squad. So I used to bring people in that would subsequently be wanted for, that would be wanted for a certain crime, and then they subsequently are debriefed, and now all of a sudden they're wanted for a shooting or a murder. So I've been in the room where murderers have confessed. And most of the time, the confessions and the motives for the murder are, they're enraged. Someone said something to disrespect them. Somebody, crime of passion, crime in the moment, crime of drinking alcohol, drugs, but never in the time that I've seen debriefings on murder suspects have I seen someone say or go to the level of, I just wanted to start my life over again. Chris Watts had a significant other, and he was hiding it right till the end. Those text messages and all the things that came out with the Netflix series, and reading those and seeing those, how Shanann was trying to hold on to their love and trying to rekindle the spice in their life. It was, I'm married almost 30 years. It really was heartbreaking for me to see those text messages and read them. This crime is so horrific on so many different levels. Mav, your cousin, there's so many unanswered questions that you have as well. Like, I asked you these things. I said, do you think he had a significant other? There was the drinking on the table with Jacob, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, and how that plays in.
Yes, and one of the, well, just for both of these situations, we don't know when we have to take the word of a murderer, if there's not an abundance of evidence. And that's why when I think about you being a detective, where you uncover all of these things, and that way we have something that tells us what happened, other than this other person's word, who now we know we can't trust. We can't trust him with our loved ones, let alone what happened. And they've got self-preservation that has to happen now. And I often wonder, when you have families, I'm a mother, I have a son, and I have brothers, and I can I can only imagine what it would be like if they were in this situation. And when I look at Chris and I see him crying, I just think it doesn't really, that tear doesn't really hold a lot. You're upset because your mom's upset. You did that, you know,
Right.
and there, I can see where families may want to create a reason around why this would happen. And the fact of the matter is, there are plenty of people who are tired of being married, and they choose to leave and start a new life without taking another life,
Yeah.
and
No
without
violence.
disregarding that person as a human being. And that's the facts of it, is that he did not see his wife and his beautiful children as human beings worthy of being alive, or worthy of love, or worthy of anything. At some point he had to, dehumanize them in
Right.
order to carry out this crime. And that's one of the things with Jacob. I don't know that he had a drinking problem. I don't know if Clara ever shared any of that stuff. I do know that she didn't share it with her friends. And we don't know that. We don't know anything. And I don't know how much of that was a way to give a reason for it other than he made a decision that included my family is not worthy of being alive and I need to kill them right now. And that's something that you have so many chances to not do that. And most people don't do that. And that's why I don't take any of those excuses. I don't take Chris wanting to start a new life as an excuse. You can
Right.
start a new life and be broke. You can, I know people who do that, who start over. They really do start over. And they've got to think enough of themselves that they're going to get away with it in order for that thought process to go through their mind. And I wonder with families that are so forgiving or rationalizing, I wonder sometimes if they would have helped, like would Chris's family have helped him get away with it or cover it up? You
Yeah.
know?
I kind of get that feeling when I see when I look at the interview, the famous Chris Watts talking to his father, to Ronnie Watts, the way his father was like, tell me what happened. And the way his mother believed and father believed the first initial lie that he told, that Shanann killed the girls. And that's such a cowardly thing for a murderer, for a sick human being, a monster to do, to throw the blame, to try to get a way out and justify what he did by throwing his dead wife under the bus. Now, it's a horrible terminology, throwing her under the bus, but that's in fact what he did. And that's in fact what Ronnie and Cindy Watts, Chris's mom, they also jumped on that, throwing her under the bus because of their deep hatred towards her. And that's what makes it more sickening for me as a seasoned law enforcement professional, as a detective. I see his parents as enablers, as somebody who kind of just, no matter what their son or daughter or their kids do, they find justification for it. And here we are with their grandchildren. They didn't give a rat's ass about their daughter-in-law. They did not. And that's a fact. They cared about their son. And that's what makes it on so many more levels so much more sickening. That, I mean, they may not be feeling that way now, but they went along with the same narrative that Chris Watts tried to push along and shove down the seasoned investigators. They saw right through them. The polygraph tech, no matter what people said, they thought that she was too chummy with them. They thought that they were all too, but that's part of the investigator psyche. That's part of us getting our subjects to relax and sort of tell the truth or trip themselves up into the lie and get caught. And they did an effective job, no matter what anybody wants to say about how chummy they were with them and how friendly they were. That's part of what we do. You got to become friends with these animals. You got to become friends with these savages to get them to get loose enough to make a slip up. And that's what he did. But again, when I did my research here, I saw his parents, his father and his mother, saying, I don't want you to confess to anything you didn't do. Really? So let me know in the chat how many people agree with what I'm saying. And I want to say a special thank you. I just want to acknowledge, thank you for those super chats, and thank you for everybody positively interacting with each other here. Thank you, Heather Ann. Hello, Sleeping Beauty. I did get your email and I did read it. Let's prayers for Sleeping Beauty. She's going through some real tough medical times. So I'd like to put some prayer emojis for Sleeping Beauty in the chat. She is going through some difficult times. I will correspond with you. You sent me the emails just before we went live here. So I will be answering you back shortly. Again, let me know in the chat if you feel the same way about the Watts parents, Ronnie and Cindy. The daughter seems to be coming from that same university, the Watts University, I like to call it. It's just patting your son or your daughter or your child on the back for doing something wrong is so hurtful in so many ways, and it starts from the beginning. I'm not a perfect parent. Nobody here is, but I got to say this: when my kids did something wrong, I let them know about it. When I do something wrong, I apologize about it and I right my wrongs. Okay, that's how I was raised. But you could raise somebody in that same fashion, and it's the same concept as you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? But when you give that same positive reinforcement for negative behavior, and these grown parents in their 60s, right, age 63, and my other sheet fell 63 and 64 at the time, they were basically coddling him and saying, "We love you. Don't confess to something you didn't do." Even after he came out and told the district attorney and told him that he did what he did, they still felt that he was not guilty, and that he, in self-defense, killed his wife, which is, as we know, a bunch of right. So I got to use the bleep on that. It's just a lot of hogwash. So the dynamic of murderers and their families, I'm not saying that they shouldn't go and see their son. I'm saying that they should go and see their son and further right his ship. They should further tell him what he did was wrong, and he needs to continue to pray, and then he needs to show remorse, not laugh and joke. And there should be nothing joyous about going to see your son in a prison where he's there for the rest of his life for annihilating and wiping out his family. There should be no happy times, because he ended the happy times for everybody, not just the victims, but he ended the happy times for his parents, for his sisters, for everyone that's involved in that family. How dare you go and start laughing and yucking it up with him? Okay, so at the end of it all, it's the same thing with Jacob. You know, when you told me that your uncle and that Clara's sister is being nice to Jacob Forman, that blew my mind, Mav.
Yeah, it was really
I mean,
hard.
what's your thoughts on that?
For my uncle and my aunt, I can see in a little bit of how, for their own peace, that they may need to move towards forgiveness. And I know that my uncle believes that, this is something that we're guided in the Bible to do, is to be forgiving. If there's anything that you need to let go of, it. And that's something that I believe it belongs to every person who has been wronged in any way, whether it's a small thing or a very wicked thing that has happened, like we've been through.
Right.
However, there's a line that I believe gets crossed when you go from forgiveness to diminishing what happened, and when you take away from the person. So for Chris Watts, to his parents, I think it's wrong if they ever entertain or hear any bad mouthing of Shanann or the children at all, or like his wife, or if they allow him to say anything negative. He doesn't get that. We're all in a life sentence. We don't get to ever escape from what happened. And I understand for them that there's probably some mechanisms that need to happen in their minds to rationalize it. Now, there is something that a couple people brought up in the comments that I think make a little bit of a difference. If When you think about narcissism, and when you look and you see, and I do believe Chris Watts was a narcissist, and a lot of narcissists have narcissistic parents. I don't believe that Jacob was narcissistic. I think that he was controlling, and I think that he had self-loathing, but I do see a marked difference there. And that's where I think it's a little bit easier to get to forgiveness when you know that the person really does believe that they did something wrong. But
Right.
that forgiveness cannot take away from what happened. It doesn't diminish what happened. It doesn't erase it. It's for the person who is owed that is owed the remorse. The person who committed that crime is not owed forgiveness whatsoever.
Correct.
And I think that it's one of those things for the parents that the best thing they can do is to step back and understand that their grief needs to be contained a little bit. And maybe that is totally off base for me to say, but what they get is they get to be sad and they get to have that life sentence with him, because when you look at what they've lost, they've got to, I mean, they it seemed to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to me like their loss was Chris going to prison and not the actual loss of life, which are these beautiful people that he was supposed to protect. And that is disgusting to me. And that angers me.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a picture of the family up here, and I just want to put it up there just for a few minutes to let it sink in, the damage that this monster did. And there should be nobody writing letters to him and keeping him company and telling him that he's great and that they think he's handsome. These women that are writing in, and his sister who's going in there and chit chatting it up with him and yucking it up like it's like he's some kind of celebrity, is so despicable on a human level. Um, think about if the shoe was on the other foot here. Mav, think about if you were to get reports that Jacob Forman, who did the same exact thing that Chris Watts did to his family, just in a different fashion and a little bit more violent, because he used a hammer to kill his wife, your cousin, and strangled his own kids. Um, just think about if you heard that women were writing him and coming him to visit him and flirting with him, how sickening that would, how much that more would that add to the hurt, to the pain, to the families, that this person is now getting attention from the outside world. He should be closed off from the outside world and only be able to see his immediate family, not some random stranger that wants to come in there and get notoriety for being around a monster who murdered his entire family. Um, that to me is insane on so many levels. Um,
Yeah.
Again, I wanted to put that picture up there, and if it's okay with you, I want to put up Clara's picture with the family, if that's all right with you. I'd like to get that picture and put that up in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
It's weird when you say that, because I was thinking what would happen. And I'll tell you, if I found out that he was getting letters or having visits, he'd be starting to get letters and visits from me. Just because, in case he needed to be reminded of exactly what he is, I'll definitely be the person to remind him of that. I have no problem with telling him that he's a disgusting, um, I can't even give him the credit for being a human being at this point. I'm just not there. I'm not planning on forgiving him. I don't feel that I need to. And I don't believe that these people should have the benefit of having a girlfriend when he killed their wife. I don't understand that. I never have understood it. I've seen, when you look at Scott Peterson, he was
oh,
like this celebrity, and you can tell when these narcissists, they absolutely love it, and it gives them this notoriety. And how dare anybody allow that to get in the way of remembering the people that they erased, and allowing those people to be erased. That's on us, as I said before, keeping those memories alive and making sure that there is somebody who stands up. I am so grateful for Shanann's parents that they, and I give it to them. If they need to forgive, they need to forgive. I can't judge that. However, I love that they said the words that they said. I love that they stood up for their daughter and those children. And I have a really hard time hearing anything from the parents of
Right.
the murderers. I just don't
Yeah,
understand why that would
yeah,
happen.
and I think we all do. I mean, this is this is on the national stage. Okay, just for the viewing audience, thank you to everyone here. There's over 500 people watching this live stream now. This is Jacob Forman, Clara, Josina, and Karina. Is it?
Yesenia and Karina.
Yesenia. Yesenia. So this is the beautiful family that he annihilated. It's so. The reason I was drawn to this is because it's so Chris Watts-esque what he did to his family, just on a different level, but it's the same heinous crime, same demonic, who wipes out a beautiful family like this. Look at her, Mav. She looks so happy there with a flower behind her ear. I don't know what this special occasion is. Was this a baptism or a christening or something
I
here?
believe it was. I would have to double check looking back at photos, but I believe that was Clara's sister's wedding, which was the first time that she met the girls, and we
Okay.
hadn't seen Clara for some time. It was a really happy occasion,
Oh, it
and
looks like a
they were
beautiful, beautiful
together.
photo. Yeah,
Clara
beautiful.
was really, really a beautiful person. Anybody who knew her would tell you that she was a very, very beautiful person inside and out.
Talk a
And
little bit about her. Talk a little bit about Clara, please, if you don't mind.
I will absolutely. I would love to. She was a fitness instructor and she did karate. So I started doing karate and she was a really big inspiration. And then I also did, taught gymnastics and was a coach. So that was one of those things when I saw her, teaching people and helping people to get their health back
Right.
and helping them be active. She was very passionate about that. She was a fantastic baker and very creative. She would make these insane cakes for the girls' birthdays.
Wow.
And she raised them to be bilingual. They were homeschooled, and she was very studious and very smart and a very good teacher to them as well. She was kind and soft spoken, but funny. We all have this laugh that we do in our family, and she had it too, and she would light up. She had a little bit of a lazy eye,
Right.
so that was something that we would tease her a little bit about, and she would give it right back. She was one of those really kind of petite people, and she also had become overweight at some point in her life and really got back into health, which was very inspiring, I would say. And she had so many friends. Everybody who knew her loved her. They loved her
Right.
guts. She was amazing. And
Wow.
that's what I want people to remember. And that was one of the things that a lot of the family members were afraid what Jacob might say in trial. And that's the part that really gets under my skin is anybody saying anything bad as if she could have done anything to deserve that short of killing her children. And that's something to me that I have a hard time understanding. I'm hoping that someday I may get to the point where I can move towards, I don't know if forgiveness will happen, but uh, more away from hatred, I guess would be the way. And I do know that a big step for me was when Jacob did plead guilty to first degree murder. I couldn't handle anything less than that, knowing that he couldn't have the death penalty, but
Right.
at least he did say, I want to have this done with, and he didn't say anything negative after that point, and
Right.
he didn't have a chance to. But I think about these families, and I wonder if it wasn't for her dear friend that knew something was up, who called the police and said,
Right.
"Nope, this is not okay," and I know that something is wrong. Would he have gotten away with it, and who would have helped him? Because I do know that he had family that was there for him during the days, and families put up a lot of money to defend these people. That's
Right.
something I also don't understand, is the amount of resources they will go through.
To
And I'm
defend.
thinking,
To
yeah, to
defend the
defend
wrong. To
them. And
defend a wrong.
would they have put those same resources to help if, if there was problems and Shanann wanted to leave, or needed help with the family, or would they have written her off? Same thing
Right.
with Clara. I wonder, I know I would have, but would other people have given
Right.
her the resources to leave?
Somebody said in the chat here, and pure mischief, welcome to the live stream. First time seeing you here. I've heard not one word of remorse from Chris or his family. Not one. Sorry. And that's a true statement. I mean, if they were vocal, his parents, I'm not talking about Shanann's family here. I'm talking about Chris Watts' family. If they would have came and said, it did a press conference or did it some type of interview where they said, this is an extreme tragedy. When they talk, all I read and all I see is they talk about their lives being ruined and not anybody else's. So unless I'm missing something, and I could be missing, I'm not perfect. Ronnie Watts and his wife, I've only heard them speak about them. And that is another red flag for me, Again, we have a situation here where this is a person, these are two people we're talking about, we're comparing the two. Chris Watts and Jacob Forman, they should not have one good day going forward. Every day should be a difficult one for him. Chris Watts is in general population as per his father. That's a good thing. Because I believe in one thing. I believe in justice and redemption. And I think that with our faith, he has a lot of purgatory. He's got a lot of time to pay. Both of these disgusting human beings have a lot of purgatory to pay. But while they're here on earth in prison, they shouldn't have a good day. Every day should be a struggle. Because look at the lives. Mav, you being one of them, your entire extended family, the Ruseks, the entire community, the people who she corresponded with. Look at her. Look at Shanann's friend, who, like you said, the girls from the gym. If it wasn't for them, Clara, maybe he would have gotten away with murdering her and disposing of her body. Look at Shanann's friend, who was persistent. Hey, she didn't call me. She had a prenatal appointment the next day. This is not like her. It was her girlfriend. I believe her name was Nicole too, who pushed the envelope, who got the ball rolling. It wasn't her family, it wasn't her parents, because they didn't live in Colorado. They were in North Carolina or outside of the Colorado area. Same thing with you. You guys are in the States. She's in Canada. It was complete strangers, not complete strangers, but friends, acquaintances, good human beings that got the ball rolling. And I tip my cap to those people for stepping up to the plate. If you see something,
if there can be one,
yeah. If you see something, say something. If something doesn't look right, don't go to sleep and just leave it. We have countless crimes, like the Michael Valva murder of little baby Thomas Valva. It was people who saw clear and evident abuse to the kids. And they were saying things and nobody was doing anything about it. These are different sets of circumstances, but you have to say something. If you see something that's not right with a friend or a family member, don't feel like you're going to be made fun of because you called and just checked on them. It's better to be safe than sorry. So Shanann's girlfriend, I tip my cap to her, to the girls at the gym where Clara worked. I want to meet and speak to them one day, those ladies. You and I talked about this. We got to track them down. We got to get them on. We got to interview them. We got to talk to them. I think it's important that we give acknowledgement to the people who step up. The neighbor across the street from Chris Watts with the video camera, when he was saying to the cops, something's up here, man. This guy, look at how he's pacing. That was a regular civilian, just a guy telling this cop, hey, there's something up with this guy, because he's never said two words to me, and now he's talking to me like we're buds. That
Yeah,
guy
it's
who had no
weird.
law enforcement background was like, "Hey, there's something up here, man." And that guy, if I ever saw him, I would shake his hand and hug him.
Yeah, and I did get a chance to reach out and thank the friends, and I'll talk with you more on that, and we'll see if we can get them. But that's one of the things that I would say to the people who did speak up, and even though it wasn't in time, and we still lost these lives, you're important, and that you didn't just allow this to happen and go away, and that's really something that means something to me.
Right.
And we have there's so many weird things because, like you said, nobody really was talking except for in the little town. Nobody was talking about what happened to Clara, and the Chris Watts case was like sensational news. Like everybody was talking about it, everybody knew.
Yeah.
And he Clara and her children, we believe that they were actually killed on the 17th, which was just a couple days before they were found. And that's one of Chris Watts' kids' birthday. And it was just, I just wonder, was
Wow.
he, did he go back and he see the story? Like it's just the way things are similar.
I mentioned that to you on our first conversation, right?
It was really, really weird that that happened, and just how it was connected was really strange.
Right.
And I also found that it was strange that nobody really knew what had happened to Clara and that you were actually speaking about it.
Yeah.
And this is something, that I'm interested in true crime anyways. I've looked
Right.
at, I've gone
Right.
into the rabbit holes. And one
Hmm.
of the things that is remarkable is when we see the families and they kind of like sweep it under the rug like it's just a skeleton in their
Right.
closet.
Yeah.
And like you said, to
Like it's
your
going to go
point,
away. It's just going to
he doesn't get to
disappear.
have joy. He doesn't get to, like, I don't want him to have any joy. I don't want
No.
Chris Watts to ever have a happy day. And it seems like
Ever.
it's robbing somehow the lives that we have to go on as survivors when we see that other person miserable and
Let
wanting
me
to be
say
sick
something
every
quick.
day.
Let me say something quickly here. I agree with you wholeheartedly, 1 gazillion%. I got to pay attention quickly to the chat. I apologize, Mav. Gemma's Journey and Grace, thank you for that generous super chat. Much love and respect. Guys, if you want to throw up some questions for Mav about her or any Chris Watts related to the family questions, this is a live stream about Chris Watts' parents, mother, father, sister, and their interaction with their son and their brother after the fact of knowing he annihilated a family and an unborn child. Any questions, come through the chat. I'm looking now. Thank you to Joey Brooklyn. Joey, I agree 100% with you. If the parents enable it and say it's okay, then it makes them just as bad. What's your view on the NK interview? Again, this B. Smith, I will do a live stream about that, but that's not what this one's about. I appreciate the question, though. Keep the questions in regards to Chris Watts' parents, Ronnie and Cindy Watts, and his sister. So I'm looking quickly. Any questions for Mav in regards to her
I want to
crime?
acknowledge Lynn Williams had commented about her ex, and I'm really glad that you're no longer with that person. And I've actually heard a lady I knew was talking about her son and how his girlfriend and no one's going to be good enough, and just the conversation how she was just talking. And I said, hey, that's your grandkid's mom.
Yeah.
Like that hurts the kids, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not helpful. And
Right.
even that, it kind of gets to me. And I've asked those questions like, hey,
Right.
was she hurting him? Was she
Yeah.
abusive? Was she, why would you get to that? No, she's just a nasty person or whatever. And being willing to say, that's not okay. I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
It just, I'm sorry that you went through that,
Sure.
and I really am glad that you got out of it.
Yeah.
I hope they're
Prayers.
no longer part of your family and anybody who's going through that.
Yes. Yes. And, I'm going to link the domestic violence hotline, the National Domestic Violence and International Domestic Violence hotline, down in the description below after the video is over. Here's a great question for you. It comes from Air S. Again, thank you, Air S. One of the first times I've seen you in a live stream. Mav B, Did you notice anything off about Jacob? And this is a great question because I asked the same thing of you when we had our offline interview before we went live. So, Mav, did you notice anything off about Jacob? And I know you got plenty to say about this.
Yes, yes. It was actually her sister that told me I'm not allowed to talk to her outside of Facebook. I'm not allowed to see the girls. He was very controlling, and I had mentioned to Clara before, if you ever need anything, day or night, you call me. And I was formulating in the months before she passed, I was formulating how do you say to somebody, hey, if you need to leave? And I just sent her a message. It just said, hey, anything you ever need, you let me know. And I don't care what. If you need to just come and see me or anything, you can tell me anything that's going on. But yes, we did feel that there was something wrong with him. And some members of the family say that he had been struggling with alcohol and they were having problems.
Right.
However, she did what a lot of people do, and they have that, Instagram, Facebook family where they're showing everybody how great things are. She praised about, their wedding anniversary that was about a month before she died. But yes,
Wow.
we did.
Yeah.
And she never confided in her friends that anything was particular going wrong. But even the neighbors were like, we never really saw them. And
Right.
they kept to themselves. So there are a lot of signs. And I would be surprised if nobody thought it was weird that Chris Watts did what he did, besides his family, of course.
Yeah. And you also mentioned to me that he was keeping her away from communicating with you guys. Like you said, there was no phone calls, there was no interaction outside of what little bits you were given. In other words, if you wanted to reach out to her, it would probably be difficult at best for you to get a hold of her. And that's a major red flag right there. And that's controlling narcissistic behavior on the behalf of Jacob Forman. Here's a great question coming in from CJ Sleuth. Ron or Mav, this is to either one of us. Do you think Chris Watts would have done this if not for his parents? He knew he disappointed them by marrying Shanann. I'm going to answer first, if you don't mind, Mav. I think yes and no. I think that the driving factor for Chris Watts is that he met this other girl and he was totally, totally whipped. He was totally whipped on many levels, and he was out of love with his wife. And in his sick, demented mind, whether he was getting it from Nicole Kessinger or he wasn't, we'll never know this. She might have been forcing the issue with him. Not the issue of murder, not the issue of annihilation, but the issue of, hey, you got to get away from your wife and your kids. It's the only way that we can be together. And if that was the case, again, he's never going to tell us the truth. She's not going to ever come forward. And for those of you who think that she's in the witness protection program, let me just give you a little education 101 on witness protection. To become somebody enrolled in the federal witness protection program, you have to witness a crime, and you have to be a witness for the federal government in a case. She was neither. So I'll leave you with that. Bob, what do you think about that? What do you think about, do you think Chris Watts would have done this if not for his parents? He knew he disappointed them by marrying Shanann.
I think there's a lot of enabling that goes on, and there's a lot of the building up, but I do believe that he cared about himself. Bottom line, I think he cared about himself. I think he wanted to be out of his relationship. I don't think he wanted to pay child support. A lot of times there's a financial aspect that goes in with it. I think that the idea of leaving and knowing that she was probably going to get a lot from him, then that led him to dehumanize her and led him ultimately to take the lives, because it's not going to be something that's going to be rational. Now, I do believe that if he had parents that were narcissists and really built him up, like he was going to get away with it. He thought a lot about himself in that. So I think that, they get to support him. He gets to have the support of a loving family, which is disgusting. But at the same time, I think his actions were his own, and that
Right.
that it probably came down to, you know, he wanted to be done with his family.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the support is what motivates this stuff, is
Right.
they don't want to give that person a single dime of their money, which
All
is
right. I'm stopping the chat because I saw another good question. Um, so, God, where did it go?
think about how Jacob's parents react.
Yeah. Hold on 2 seconds. I'm sorry that I interrupted you because I lost the question.
There was one that I don't mind answering. It says, it's strange that the Watts family never disapprove of him. It's something we don't see in other cases. And how did Jacob's parents react? And I think that Chris Watts, the Watts family, are full of narcissists, and they think there's nothing that their kid could do that would make him unworthy of love. And maybe that's the truth, but there is a time where you cut off support. And Jacob's parents are in a great amount of loss and a great amount of remorse, and they're very remorseful toward us as well. There was a moment where they wanted the girls and, you know, to be there and buried there, and then that went away immediately. So they
Right.
are very remorseful, and at the same time they also support him, and they have supported him financially through the months and years that was going to take to get through a trial. So I say that with a little bit of an asterisk on,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's their parents who have lost a great deal, and they would trade places with our family. I don't know if you guys know this, but shortly after the after we lost Clara in 6 weeks, we lost my brother. He lost his battle with mental health, and um, there's a point in time where I told my mom, what if he would have hurt his wife and his two girls and baby on the way? And my mom said, I think that Jacob's parents would rather be in our position where they lost their son than be the parents of the son that did this. And that, I
Right.
believe, is the truth for them. And I see a big
Yeah.
difference with Jacob's parents and the Watts parents. That's
Yeah.
something that I don't
Huge.
know how I
Yeah.
could
Be-
manage if they were like
Because
that.
no two families, as we know, are have the same makeup, right? So no two is going to be the same. But Mav, let me just say my heart breaks for you and your family. Suicide is something that I've spoken about. I would have loved to have had you on that last live stream, but we're going to do more about it, bringing awareness and education for families going forward. So I'm hoping that you could come back for another edition of suicide awareness and bring this to the forefront. And it's brave of you on many levels to even bring that up, and I thank you for that, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I pledged myself to Beyond the Badge NY to continue to have that conversation in memory of all lives that are lost to suicide. It's something with COVID-19 and what we're all going through, and with families like yourself who suffered a severe blow with the murder of your cousin, her two daughters, and then have something like that happen shortly thereafter is devastating. It's devastating just to have that happen and compound that with what took place just months earlier. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So kudos to you, Mav, for coming out and speaking about that. I want to just pay attention a little bit more to the chat because I promised them about 10 minutes of this. So I'm going to go and look more at the chat. If you see any questions that jump out, just call them out to me and I'll put them up on the screen.
There was a question, well, and thank you for people who are posting up on both the domestic violence and suicide hotlines, and reach out to your friends that if you have someone you can confide in and trust, let them know something's going on. There was someone who said about the letter where Chris Watts was saying, and I haven't seen this letter, but Chris Watts saying, if anything happens to me, look to my wife. And that just to me goes towards the idea that this was completely premeditated. He had some time to think about it, and he needed to demonize her in the eyes of the family and friends. And we see this a lot where these people will talk trash. That happened to me in my first marriage. I was married to a narcissist who was abusive, and he would do that all the time. He would say horrible things about me to my family, to his family, and he really wanted to make sure that everybody thought I was a horrible human being, so that if anything ever happened, they would know that I probably deserved it. And that's actually it's like textbook. It's so disgusting how these guys do it the same thing, and they have to follow the rules of their textbook, which says first you got to make sure everybody hates this other person, so that no one's surprised when this happens, and you'll have somebody who has some sympathy for you for what you did. And
Right.
it's their delusion.
Yeah, it's I mean, domestic violence is, there's so many levels and so many different aspects to it. There's a physical aspect, there's the mental, there's so many aspects to domestic violence, and no two come in the same form. So at the end of the day, you have to get help for that. You have to reach out. You're a survivor. You went through it. You went through it for a long time, and you have firsthand experience. So somebody asked quickly in the chat. I thought that they killed child killers in jail. Why is Chris Watts in general population? I will say this, guys. I'm well versed in the criminal justice system. I'm well versed in the system. So when someone is incarcerated and goes to jail, they can't keep them in protective custody for the whole time. If you're in jail and you're 35 or 33 years old and you're in jail for conceivably 70 plus years, they're not going to babysit you for 70 years. So he's in general population because the prison executives, the executive who runs that jail, that prison, actually prison, when you go to jail, the jail is temporary until you get sentenced, and then you go to prison. So in his prison, they felt that he was fit for general population. And if something was to happen to him, I got to tell you this, I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep about it. And call me whatever you want to call me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But if he was to get some jailhouse justice, I would not celebrate it. I would not clap my hands and jump up and down. But I would just go about my day and say, justice was served, times two. Once at the bench, when we heard the judge give him his consecutive life sentences, and then once at the hands of jailhouse justice. So that's how I feel about that, and it's just my opinion. Soul Sister, thank you for being in here. Let me just say hello to everybody. If you're new for the very first time, let me know where you're watching, your city and state. Norma, thank you for the $9.99 super sticker, super love. Thank you for that. There was another super chat that came in asking a question in regards to NK. Let me see if I can get back to that. I'm not going to answer it, but I'm going to tell you that I will do a follow-up and we'll talk about that. This live stream is about Chris Watts and his mother, father, sister. Family dynamic. We're not really delving into other things. So let me know where you're watching from, city, state, and country, and we'll give you a quick shout out, me and Mav. If you see something comes across the board, jump on it. Greenville, South Carolina, Wyoming, Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Go ahead, Mav.
It's interesting because I don't know that there's a whole lot of people that speak out when they're on the other side of this. And I did have an opportunity to meet a woman right after my brother had passed and right after Clara had passed. I want to say maybe 6 months after, so it was still pretty fresh. And her nephew was the Chris and the Jacob in this story, and he ended up taking his own life at the end of it. And she said to me, it was good to hear a person who was just so sorry that it happened. And she gave me a perspective of being on the other side the way I think that it could go in a more loving way, in a more respectful way. And she said, you know, she loves her nephew. It was her favorite nephew,
Right.
but that person died the moment it became okay in his mind to harm his family. And that's who she mourns, the other person. And I think that there is room for that. And that's why I just get really frustrated and angry when I see these families that act like it didn't happen.
Right.
And, you know, for
Talking,
Shanann and the girl.
talking to him like nothing,
Yeah.
talking to him like nothing happened is doing more harm than good.
It's a
I feel.
dishonor. It's a dishonor to those children. Okay. If you
Yeah.
don't love the person, you think you're just as bad, that you think that that person deserved
Yeah.
this.
I,
The
I
children could
agree.
have done nothing, absolutely nothing, to deserve to die at that. I can't even think of the amount of fear
Right.
that they went through. And I pray for the peace of the family members and the friends and those who are suffering,
Right.
knowing what happened. And I'm glad that that in these cases we do have a form of justice,
Right.
versus other families right now that are still waiting for justice, or waiting in fear. And I gotta say that the most important thing that I can come out on this side is that we've got to support. If you have a family member, allow them to get out and remove the shame around all of that, remove the stigma and the shame around divorce, and let them know it's okay. Love them as hard as these parents are loving their piece of, bleep
Yeah.
son.
Hold on.
You know what I mean? Exactly. I
Well,
censor myself a little bit
Mav,
here.
you say it so well, you speak so well, and that's why I'm so honored and glad to have you here on the live stream with me. And I don't share live streams with many people. It's usually me doing it solo, and the reason I do it is because I I I do connect with a lot of people, but I have a really strong connection with you. So I trust you. I trust your words. I know how you think. I know how wonderful and a beautiful person you are inside and out. So that's why I have you come back time and time again. So let me get back to the chat. Vincina is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kelly Brown from QI, Michigan. Red Like Wine saying hello. Chris is dead inside, says Annie. Hello from New Jersey, Jojo. Thank you. Lonnie for the $9.99, $10 super chat. Hello, Des Harris from Boise, Idaho. Carol Loving, Alaska. Welcome to DutyRon and all who are here. I just wanted to not, because a lot of people put their where they were from. Hold on, there was somebody from South Africa. I want to get to that. Oy vey, as they say. I'm missing all of the. Okay, Boca Raton, Florida, says Robin Lane. Gary Lee from Fort Worth, Texas. Washington State, Rhonda Grace, thank you for being in here. Hello, Sean Sneed from Virginia. Tracy Knapp from Wilder, Kentucky. Hudson, Ohio, career woman 33. Kelly Brown withdrew her statement. Mama Mia, hey DutyRon from Newcastle, Delaware. Hello to you and Mav. Not just my first time, but I'm Colorado Springs, about 80 miles or so from the Watts house. Yeah, I want to talk about that house real quick. It's up for sale, and it's having all kinds of issues, and there's all kinds of stuff going on with that. That's really something that, in my eyes, is really not even a talking point here. And the only reason I brought it up is because some people message me about the house, and I'm not a rude person in general. You know that I always answer people, Mav, but I don't really feel like that's even something that's needs to be discussed here. That would just make it, gossip. Like, what happens to that house happens to that house. And if people want my opinion on what needs to be done, it should be bulldozed over, and they should make a memorial park for the kids and for Shanann. That's what should happen to that property. It shouldn't be resold. It should be hallowed ground. This is where people's lives lost or started to get lost. We don't even know the true story of where the murders took place. He confessed to Shanann being killed there, but we don't know if he killed the kids there and drove them to that site already dead, or if he in fact did what he did. That's neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, I feel like that location should not be a livable site. But if somebody wants to go and live there, I mean, more power to you. But there's so many things going on there. Any other questions for Mav or myself before we end this live stream? Again, I want to say this, Chris Watts having pen pals and having women throwing themselves and going up to dolling themselves up and going to meet with this guy, you need to have a serious psychological exam done. You have really deep-rooted problems if you want to go and visit a guy like this. Now, there was a woman who has a book coming out. I don't even know her name, some blonde woman who was visiting with him, and she said she got anxiety, and the way he deep stared her and blind stared her and talked about the gruesome acts that he did for her book. She's going through, according to her words, anxiety, and she's stressed out, and she's never been stressed out. She went there for money, to make a book, right? So she had a purpose there. But if she was going there to throw herself at him and try to, socialize with him, I would say you need to have your head examined. So people who write letters to him, try to make pen pals and have love affairs with a 3-time murderer, who's someone who wiped out his family, you need to seek psychiatric help. And that's as blunt as I can put it without calling you, and I won't even do it, because you're all, you're up in the head. So, thank God for bleeping machines, Mav, right? Any final thoughts?
I just want to thank everybody for your kind words and your support. I think that the biggest punishment to Chris is if everybody just forgot that he existed.
Silence.
As soon as his parents are gone, and years he'll have to think about it. Eventually he'll just be another inmate that doesn't matter, and that's the justice that we can look forward to. And that's something that I think we want to make sure that we remember the victims, and that we support each other. And I thank everybody for you're so supportive. You have the best community, Rob.
I got to tell you, and thank you for mentioning that, Mav. And you put things so well. You're such a well-spoken woman, and I thank you for that. My community here is so respectful and so understanding. They're generous. They're giving their time. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel members, my moderators, and all the people who get it. They get the message that I put out. I'm not telling you have to act this way. I'm just saying this is the way I act. And if you are like-minded like me, where you're going to respect crime victims, you're going to talk in a respectful fashion, because you can say this better than anybody else. There's people behind these victims. There's living, surviving people behind these victims. It doesn't matter who we're talking about. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Scott Peterson. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the Watts case. It doesn't matter if we're talking about anybody who's been murdered. There's a family that's left behind. And when you make a YouTube video or go on live social media or upload a video, you never know if that family member or somebody who's friends with that family member is going to stumble across it. And I was always taught, if you don't have something nice to say, then don't say it at all. Okay? I have been personally involved where I've made notifications for a suicide, someone jumping off a building, taking their own lives, being shot, and going and making notifications to a family. There's no other pain like that. As a police officer, when I became a cop in 1991, we had 2,200 homicides in the city of New York where I worked. That's 2,200 murders. I had to go make notifications more than I wanted to. And there is extreme pain and extreme agony that these families go through. So think about what you say in your little Facebook chat rooms. Think about the things that you say in your blog posts or in your videos. But here in the DutyRon community, I talk about love and respect, and I mean it. And the people who are around me understand that. And that's why I say, when a family tells you, stop talking about me, then just stop doing it. It's as simple as that, folks. I'm going to wish you guys all a bunch of love and respect from my house to yours. Mav, stay just for a minute because I want to talk to you behind the scenes. On behalf of Mav B and her family, on behalf of the Ruseks, I'm going to just say, everyone, please put some prayer emojis in the chat for the victims here, the children, the unborn, the mothers. Please light up my chat with hearts and prayer emojis. I'm just going to bow my head just for a moment and say a quick prayer for these two families. Amen. All right, guys. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And most importantly, God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. Thank you for joining us, Mav. Thank you. Love and respect, as always, from my house to yours.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.